Hello and welcome to episode 2 of BassPush Interviews in conjunction with the thewubmag, an online magazine based in Bristol covering all genres of underground music. Today we have one of the fastest rising names in UK D&B, a DJ producer from Cardiff, part of the Artists of Rhythm and the Kajiki Audio Collectives, with releases on Kajiki Records, Free Drum and Bass, Sour Sounds, Blazing Haze Audio, Monk Audio, pretty much you name it, he's probably been on there. Today we have Stuss. How are you, my man?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, thank you very much. Let's just jump straight in. What have you been working on recently then?
So I've got a few projects coming up now, which I'm very excited for. 2 really nice EPs, 1 or 2 singles sort of dotted in between.
Nice.
Really looking forward to these, really starting to push myself now into like the paid release world, sort of going away from free downloads.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different ball game now that I'm slowly starting to learn, but I'm excited for it.
Awesome, man. Yeah, I've got to say, just watching your growth over the last, I mean, I first heard of you, about a year and a half ago, I reckon, just before we started talking, really. And to watch your growth has been absolutely unreal. I think when I first heard of you were, I think 700-800 followers maybe, and now you're up over 5,000, and that's just unreal, man. It's very well deserved, though, I've got to say.
Thank you very much.
So, your most recent release, where can we find that?
So the most recent one, I believe, was on Bagged and Tagged and Breezed. They were sort of like a week apart at the start of the year. So I had a 4-track EP on Breeze, which I did with the very talented Jando and Subverse.
Nice.
And then a single release on a compilation album with Bagged and Tagged alongside people like Contact, KL. I think Warhead was on there as well. And that one just amazing. I mean, that was number 1, I think, within about 2 or 3 days.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So, so with regards to all of these releases, so I see that you've been getting into the charts quite a lot. Is number 1's pretty much where you're sitting most of the time, from what I can gather.
Yeah, it's a bit mad. I only really did my first paid release like the end of last year. For my second one to do as well as it did was just sort of, it was a bit mind-blowing for me. I didn't really expect that. Like, I really liked that EP. I really liked every tune in there, but you just never know how it's going to be received at the time it's released.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
It received as well as it did and compete with some of the other releases from even bigger artists out there. It was just staggering.
Yeah. So, in terms of like your DJing and stuff, so were you doing many sets before the first lockdown?
Yeah, quite lucky in Cardiff in some regards that it's probably maybe not as saturated as a lot of other scenes around the UK. We still got like a really healthy up and coming scene, which is really good to see, but there's always an opportunity to be able to play on nights. So before, me and a lot of the Cardiff scene, we were playing out quite a bit before. We had quite a lot of planned for 2020 as well, and it was kind of just like, for everyone, it was just a bit of a kick in the teeth. There was so many good things planned, so many big things, and for that to all sort of fall through and now have this uncertainty of when we're not coming back, it's been a bit much, hasn't it? So on that subject, with obviously the first lockdown and COVID and things like that, has it changed your process whatsoever? Has it changed like how you approach music? Has it changed anything like that? Yeah, before I was just sort of, making music, whatever sort of I pieced together when I was sitting down making tunes, whereas now sort of making what I'm feeling sort of as I've been going through lockdown. You can sort of see like the peaks and troughs of when I was feeling good, the sort of vibe, sort of music I was on then, and then lower sort of the music I was making then. And I think I started to make a lot more music that I'm just sort of feeling at the time, or however I'm feeling at the time, that's sort of reflecting on what music I'm making now.
So as opposed to just writing a track, you're actually trying to build off of your emotions and things like that. That's really cool, man. That's really cool. So moving forward with the production, things like that, what upcoming releases have you got?
So I've got a single with Hydrated. Sorry, I just gotta look at my board. And a Victor EP and a Bagged and Tagged EP.
Nice.
All to be coming soon. After that, though, I'm going to be taking a little bit of a break, sort of from releases till about June, July time, and in that time, I'm just going to be making loads and loads of tracks.
By which time, hopefully, we'll be back in clubs. Yeah, we can hope indeed. We can hope indeed. So what kind of goals do you have moving forward with your music? Is there any particular artists you want to work with, any particular labels you want to jump on, or?
For labels wise, especially sort of the sound I'm going, like people like Sofa Sounds, Overview, just that really Sofa sound, you know, like Molecular, DLR, Break.
Yeah.
Those are the sort of people I'd absolutely love to work with in the future. Also people like Blade Runner, Spy. Obviously that's like a whole nother level, but
yeah, mate, work a Stuss Blade Runner track. Woo!
That's the dream.
That'd be some dope stuff. So throughout this last year or so, I've seen you've done a few sets on live streams. I know that I personally had you on for one with Anxiety Rave.
Yeah.
How has that been for you? Like changing from obviously performing in front of a whole crowd, like, you know, and being able to feed off of that as opposed to just kind of playing to a camera.
Yeah, it's odd. I honestly get more nervous for live streams than I do for live sets, because for me it's about seeing the audience. Like when you're live, you can see the audience, you can see their reactions. Like when it's when they're sitting behind the camera, I don't know. It's a weird. I'm slowly getting used to it now. Like I've done a few now. It's kind of like just doing live sets when you start. Really, you just sort of get used to it. But yeah, it's definitely an odd experience, but I'm really enjoying it. Like it's a whole thing to conquer in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, I know that I found for myself that that live streams were just so stressful, because obviously when you're playing live, it's all kind of you rock up, you play, and there's no issues with anything. But when you're live streaming, you got to make sure your connection's good. You got to make sure your cables are in the right place, and it's just. And organising that 2-day live stream that we did, that you jumped on, was just there's a reason we haven't done a second. In terms of your inspirations for your music and how you got started, what kind of inspirations did you have to get into the drum and bass scene? Was it purely drum and bass, or was it other genres of dance music that kind of led you to drum and bass? Or?
I think it just sort of started off, I think like most people, like it was like a little bit like bassline house, tech house. And then that's sort of when I started getting into electronic music. And then through that, and through meeting various people, that's when I started getting into raving and drum and bass. And then from there, it's just sort of become like a really big passion for me. I absolutely like just fell head over heels for it.
To be honest, you can tell that when you listen to your music. You really can. You can tell that there is some passion behind it. Not just like a thing that you do. It's a thing that you clearly love, which is really awesome to see, to be honest with you. So what kind of artists inspired you when you were first picking up the productions?
It was a completely different sound to what I'm into now. Like I used to really love my sort of like jump up. So it was like people like Maggi, Dominator, Upgrade, those sort of like producers. And then as my sound sort of developed, it turned into people like Break, Spy, DLR, Blade Runner, more recently Molecular now, because he's just done absolute bits recently, like 2 huge, loads of new stuff on the way. It's just started off on Jump Up, and then sort of progressed into what it is now.
Yeah, you can tell that when you listen to your tracks, because even now there is that element of jump up from some of them. Do you know what I mean? With that like high energy, that's always really fun to hear.
Yeah.
So let's do this then. Top 5 drum and bass DJs. Go.
Ooh, has to be Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Upgrade live is sick. AMC obviously.
Yeah.
Just kills it every single time he touches a set of decks.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Put me on the spot now. I can't. Now I can't think of it.
Sorry, man.
Literally, I'm having to look at my posters now, trying to remember who I've seen. God, my mind's actually gone blank.
That's all right. We can move on. That was just a bit of fun, really.
Yeah.
So, with your like collaborations, have you got a particular favorite collaboration that you've done? If you like favorite person to work with?
I have to say my favorite one so far has probably been with Subverse. My recent one on Breeze, Touching Me. That was just a really fun track we made together. Like, he just came around within 2 hours. We sort of had the basic drums down and intro down, and then everything else just sort of really slotted into place nicely. And he was adding like little bits I wouldn't think of, and like we were building on each other's ideas, and like had like a really good workflow, and like we had very similar ideas, and it was really fun to make that track.
Yeah, it's good to have someone to bounce off of, isn't it? When because especially when you get stuck on something, and you and you just want to kind of, you don't want to step away from it because you think you might lose the inspiration for it. So it's good to, it must be good to have someone to bounce that off of.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that happens so many times where he'd have like develop an idea and you get a little bit stuck on it and be like, oh yeah, we can do this, and then it was, you know, vice versa as well. Like, I'd start developing something, you'd be like, get stuck and need help, and it's really good to have someone to bounce off with, because most of the time both of you just sitting there and you're just like, well, I don't know what to do now. You sort of just get a bit bored, and you're just like, okay, we'll just do it another time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So with obviously the state of the country at the moment, no nightclubs and stuff like that, have you had any contact from like other countries to get you over, for example like New Zealand or anything like that?
I had a very, very, very brief chat with someone in New Zealand. It was like end of summer last year, I think it was.
Okay.
But it was like a very informal sort of off the cuff sort of chat that we had. I would love to get out there at some point. The scene does just look really incredible out there, and it would just be nice to go traveling as well.
It looks great over there, doesn't it? It looked great before this, but now obviously because we don't have access to it over here, seeing videos like that K-Motion's video where it's a 360 step, oh man.
You've seen that many people together like a week ago. It's just a mind-blowing thought.
It really is, isn't it? So so on the subject of gigs and things like that, I'm just quite interested to hear about, you know, some of your favorite gigs that you've done over the years, like particular favorite like lineups that you've been on, and just little bits like that.
So I think my favorite one, well, two of my favorites would probably have to be Dub Plate Style in Cardiff last year, supporting Spy, Blade Runner and Randall. That was like a dream come true in one night for me.
Yeah, I bet.
I'd say probably the funnest night, probably the best night I've ever been to really would have been probably a few weeks after that. I think it was just almost a year ago now. Was Souped Up in Cardiff. And that was just a fun night from start to finish, like being sat up in the green room and, you know, like Serum, Benny V, all that lot, just having like a great laugh, you know. Decent. It was just a cracking night from start to finish.
So have you done, how far have you gone for a gig? Have you done like a lot of gigging in other places other than Cardiff, or is it just predominantly Cardiff?
It is mainly Cardiff. I've travelled like out and about a few places, been up to Manchester. I think Leeds is probably the furthest I've gone.
How was the scene up there?
Yeah, one of my mates actually started doing D&B nights up there, and sort of from that, like the scene started to grow a bit up there. And to be fair, it is a really good scene up there. The one night we went up for was cracking.
Yeah,
really good.
decent, man. So in terms of your progression, obviously we've gone through the, you know, your followers has just exploded, but in terms of your like musical progression, is there anywhere that you want to go with your music from this point forward? So, you know, I'm not talking about people you want to work with. I'm talking about, you know, sounds that you want to explore.
Yeah, like I've always wanted to be as the diverse producer as I possibly can. I don't want to just be making sort of one style of drum and bass constantly. I want to sort of, like I said earlier, sort of explore what I'm feeling. Like if I'm like, oh, you want to make a bit of jungle today,
Yeah,
like, you know, I'll start exploring that. And then if it's like, oh, a little bit of dance floor, or, you know, some minimal, you know, some funky bits, whatever, like, you know, that's sort of what I want to do. I want to sort of expand my production so that I can do lots of different styles with it and keep it fresh.
have you thought about exploring other genres, or is that something that you're not really interested in at this point?
I started exploring tech house a bit more recently.
Okay.
I've really enjoyed making that because it's just something a bit different. You know, you
Yeah,
can put
so
something pretty,
there's like a nice groove to it in there.
yeah. So yeah, I think tech house and probably like a little bit of techno, maybe a bit of house, whatever in between. Yeah, definitely. Like, it's probably nothing I'd take seriously, but it's just something nice to be able to do on the side.
Yeah,
as well.
yeah, of course, man.
Yeah.
So obviously we can't talk about certain things that are coming up, but in terms of like, have you been approached for like remixes and things like that? Have you got bits like that you're sat on, or?
Yeah, I've got one remix I'm sat on that that's probably about as much as I can say about it.
Okay. That's fair, man.
Yeah, that one's been kept under wraps for quite a while now. I think the only people that really know about it are obviously there's like the label owner, like a few of my mates that I've played it to.
Yeah.
And that's and I've told them about it as well.
Is there any news on when that might be coming, or is it kind of when it comes, it comes?
When it comes sort of thing.
Yeah, I thought that might be the case. So what we've spoken about, like, you know, labels that you'd like to work with, artists that you'd like to work with. Obviously, when nightclubs and things like that come back, are there any particular, I mean, obviously, you know, Fabric would be amazing, but are there any other type of like club nights or anything like that that you really want to go and play?
I'd love to do Lakota. That's always sort of been like a bucket list place for me to go.
Yeah.
Obviously off the back of that, then probably somewhere like Motion a bit further down the line.
Yeah. Both of those venues are pretty damn decent. Lakota, I mean, I don't know where we stand at this point, but hopefully it's still there when we can go back.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, yeah. Any other ones, or like?
Obviously, like the big ticket ones, somewhere like Printworks. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just absolutely fascinated by that venue.
Have you been there before?
Not yet, no. I haven't been to any of the London ones really.
No.
Never really got a chance to go out and
quite far for you, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's sort of like the plan after lockdown now, is to try and get out to as many different places as possible and start going to events there now.
Yeah, of course. So if we got any, obviously it's all hypothetical at this stage, but you know, the UK tour?
To be honest, I'd actually love to do one. Just to be able to travel around, you know, go to different cities.
Yeah.
You know, meet different people, see what the scenes are like out there. It would just be like a really nice experience, to be honest.
Yeah. Awesome. So should we talk hardware? Should we talk like hardware and software? Should we talk about what doors you use and like if you've got any hardware that you use or anything like that?
Yeah. So I'm on Logic Pro. I pretty much have been since I started producing.
Nice.
Um, I've got a set of Adam Audio. I think it's the T5Es or it might be the TV5s. I can't remember which way around it goes. Um, and just like a little MIDI keyboard. So I'm on quite a small desk at the moment. I do want to get a full size one at some point, but
Yeah,
it's just not possible right now.
it's just
And then I have recently got a second monitor on like an arm just for sort of to declutter my main monitor.
yeah, of course.
Just drag a few extra things onto there now, but it's sort of slowly getting there, slowly adding like a few pieces here and there. But like I said, with like the desk and everything, like, I'm quite limited to what I can add at the moment.
Right.
Until
Okay.
my desk, which is probably going to be the next thing now. I'm quite happy with the setup. Like it's served me well so far. I absolutely love my speakers. Like they're perfect for what I need.
Ideal, man. So you say that you're on Logic. How do you find it?
I love it. I'm quite like a visual person, and Logic's like perfect for that for me. It's quite simply laid out. Like, I'm quite a simple person as well. So the layout and everything, my workflow, the way I can get a workflow going on there, it just works really well for me. Like I've tried to use Ableton and like just confused me a little bit, like going from Logic, and it's the same with I tried Fruity Loops when I first started out, and like it was just like all the little keyboard shortcuts you had to know, and all the little like it was just didn't work for me. And as soon as I found Logic, it just sort of
snapped into place.
Yeah, it was the one.
Ideal, man. What synths are you using these days?
Severin mainly.
Yep.
Occasionally dabble with Massive. I did have an analog synth, but I ended up selling it because I wasn't really using it. I couldn't get any use out of it. But yeah, it's just mainly Serum at the moment. And then I use a whole host of plugins. Like Christmas, I spent probably a bit too much money on plugins.
You're allowed, mate. You're allowed. So yeah. So after obviously lockdown finishes, is there any particular artists that you want to go and see? Not go and play with, not go and like let's say artists that have really jumped out in the last year.
Breakage is a big one for me recently. I was always sort of like dabbled with his music, listened to like a few bits here and there, but more recently, like I've really started to get into his music, and a few of my mates have seen him. They've always been going on about how good he is live, so he's someone definitely on my bucket list to go and see. Break as well. Say his name loads, but I haven't seen him for probably about a year or two now.
Yeah.
So I'd love to go see him again.
Dope.
Yeah. I think
so what about like maybe step down a level, because they're quite established artists. Maybe let's talk about some local artists from maybe Cardiff that you can see really blowing up in the next year or so.
The two that stick out for me are Benny and Discreet, really. I mean, those two lads in the past year have just like they've just blown up, especially with Discreet. I mean,
I was gonna say, yeah, especially Discreet.
Benny as well. I mean, Benny's got some amazing collabs coming up. I think he's even got one with Jam Thieves now, which is insane.
That'd be
like
nice.
It feels like every week I'm seeing him post that, oh, he's got another 1,000 followers, another 1,000 followers.
That's crazy.
Those two for me are two lads that like this year is going to be a massive year for them. And I can't wait to see what they're going to do now.
Awesome, man. Have you played with them many times? I assume you have, coming from Cardiff. So
Discreet a little bit, sort of when we were both starting out. And then we sort of started going down different routes with our sound, so we were sort of playing on different nights. And Benny only really sort of started coming through in the past year or two.
So
I haven't really had a chance to play with him yet.
That's a shame. So have you played? Did you manage to get to any festivals before, like 2019 or anything like that?
Played at Eldorado. That's the only festival I went to that year.
That's in Leeds, right?
It's just north of Gloucester in Ledbury, so it's
Oh,
about an
okay.
hour and a half. Yeah.
Oh, I'm thinking of Beat Herder. My bad. How was that?
Incredible. Like,
Yeah.
the best way I can describe it is just sort of like a mini boom town. Like,
Okay.
they put so much effort into it. Like, it just looks amazing out there. Like, you properly feel like you're taking. It's not just, you know, tents in a field. Like,
Yeah,
it
you've.
feels like
It's
a
like
little.
it's quite submersive then.
Yeah.
Nice, man. Nice. So, have you got any festivals that you really want to go and play at if they're ever allowed back?
Um, I'd love to go back to El Dorado, 100%.
Yeah.
I think we might have some plans to go back there. Boomtown as well, and I think that's it, to be honest. Really, like, Boomtown's the only other festival I really like to have a go at.
Have
You
you
know,
have you been to Bolter, just down the road over in Chepstow?
no,
No, definitely worth checking them out.
yeah,
I played there a couple of years ago. It's honestly one of the most mental festivals I've ever been to. It's like it's the messiest weekend I've ever experienced. Let's just say that.
so is it like a bit of
Literally a bit of everything. I mean, I went and played on the 24-hour Garage Girl stage. So and then right next door you had people like General Waste and yeah, literally anything you can imagine. I saw Terence and Phillip there, and that was just like
yeah,
I remember standing at the back and just being like, oh my god, this is so good. I'd love to, me personally, I'd love to work with Terence and Phillip. They look like total boys.
yeah.
Is there a? Oh, carry on.
I was just about to say that production as well is just class. Like,
It
they
is
keep
that.
going for events.
It is, isn't it? It is pretty much out of this world. So, have you got any particular like oh, have you got any like let's say follower goals? Have you got anything like that that you really want to achieve in the next, like, let's say year?
Um, I don't know. I try not to really think about it as much sometimes. Like, it's like
Mm,
obviously nice to sort of create goals with it, so you can sort of have something to work towards. But
mm,
it's never really something that, you know, I'm sort of actively thinking about all the time.
mm.
Like, I appreciate like all the support people gave me, and like, you know, it's really nice to hit these milestones. But I sort of I just like to make music and put it out there, really. So
That's
that's
really,
sort of like the bonus of that, I guess, in a sense.
yeah. To be honest, that's really refreshing to hear. To be honest, the
Yeah.
so in terms of like, sorry, in terms of like crews around the country. So we're talking like Born on Road, Rumble in the Jungle, crews like that. Are there any crews that really stand out to you that you'd like to work with?
Um, I haven't really given it any thought, to be honest.
No.
I've sort of just taken everything one step at a time and at my own pace. Like, you know, I sort of was doing the free downloads, you know, started then to work my way towards paid releases, and now I'm slowly working my way up through them. Um, I think maybe in the future is something, you know, if the opportunity was there, I'd do it, but I haven't really given it any thought other than that.
Fair enough, man. Fair enough. I mean, I see that you've got some of your own collaborative things going on anyway. Tell us a little bit about Artists of Rhythm.
So that was set up by one of my mates, Max, a really good mate of mine. When he started his own night rhythm in Cardiff, and I always have to give credit to him because what he managed to achieve in just a few years was absolutely incredible. Going from, you know, a night in Cardiff to doing a festival 2 years in a row, going out for like a brand takeover, working with Jungle Jam, bringing them down to Cardiff to throw like a massive night,
Nice.
doing artist liaison with, like, you know, some of the biggest names in the scene. Like, he's done everything, and he's done that in, you know, 3-4 years.
That's pretty damn
And off the back
impressive.
of that, he created Artist Rhythms, which was just like a collective of Cardiff DJs, which basically meant when Rhythm got booked for a takeover, or they had like a show they needed to do, like he just had like a little collective of artists you could call on, and we had all different styles, jump up, jungle, a little bit of neuro, liquid. So it meant you had a bit of variation to choose from. So if it was like a jump up night, oh, you can call on Stuss, or if it's jungle, oh, I can call on you.
Yeah. What other artists are involved in this Artists of Rhythm?
So there's Luke Evans, Mowgli, Low, XL, and Max himself. And
Nice.
I think that's it off the top of my head anyway.
Yeah. No, that's pretty dope, man. That's pretty dope. So I also see that you're part of Kajiki. What's that all about?
That sort of started when I started DJing, really. Like I'd only put like a few mixes out by this point, and I got approached by Callum, who runs it all, and I've sort of been with them since they started, really.
Nice. So is that again? Is that Cardiff based then? I assume.
London based they are.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but we got lads from all over the place. We got
Nice.
some from out in Belgium, Germany, Austria.
Oh, so it's pretty much worldwide then.
Yeah.
Nice, man. That's really cool. So I'm just scrolling through your SoundCloud, and we're just gonna try a little something. I'm gonna ask you a couple of questions about your SoundCloud, and we'll see how well you know your SoundCloud.
Okay.
Okay. What is your most popular track?
Sorrow VIP2.
Correct. Nice one. How many tracks do you have on there?
Oh, I want to say 23. I don't know why I got that number in my head. 25.
Nah. 36 to be precise.
Oh, I don't know where I pulled 23 from. I was racking about my brain.
So yeah, tell us a little bit more about Rhythm Records. I know we've touched on it like a little bit earlier when we were talking about the artists of Rhythm, but do you want to tell us a little bit about Rhythm Records? Have you released with them? Or is it more of an events company?
So they do have a record label side as well, but it's more sort of liquid releases they do. But the releases they're putting out still, absolutely amazing songs, really good production quality on them.
Yeah.
They always smash the promo as well. Like the artworks always looks really nice. Yeah, like that's the thing, going back to like what Max does with it, like is always like a really high level of professionalism with him when it comes to every aspect of what he does. Like that comes first, sort of thing, when he's putting his brand image across. And it's why I've always like admired what he's done with it, because like I said before, he's gone from doing one small event in Cardiff to festivals and getting jungle jam.
So what festival is that, if you don't mind me asking?
That was the Eldorado one.
He runs the Eldorado one.
Oh no, he doesn't run it. He's just brand takeover. We had him on one of the stages.
Sorry, yeah. I get you. So in terms of like, how many releases have you got coming up this year, like confirmed?
Confirmed at the moment. I've got to look at my board because my brain's like a sieve. I'd say probably about 3 or 4.
3 or 4 confirmed.
3 or 4 confirmed at the moment, and then just having a little break just so I can produce, get a few tracks down, and then start getting some demos out to labels.
Yeah. So are you feeling like you need that break from like releasing and things like that?
Yeah, because since really I rebranded to Stuss, I've sort of done nothing but make tracks, release them, make tracks, release them, make tracks, release them. I've never really been able to build up like a proper back catalogue of tunes.
Okay.
Whereas like I've always seen loads of other people, like everyone's got like, they're sitting on like 30, 40 tunes and all this. Like I think, now that I'm starting to get into the paid releases, I can sort of start taking my time now. I don't have to rush everything. And I think just a little break just to get some you know, 10, 15 tunes, whatever done, and just start getting those demos out then.
So, so what was it like transitioning from predominantly free downloads to, I assume you had to sign contracts and things like this for your paid releases? What was that transition like for you?
It's a little bit like, not scary, but like I was a little bit like nervous, like not in like a bad way. It was like
maybe a bit daunting.
Yeah, a little bit more daunting. Cause it's not like, oh, you know, it's like a free download, you know.
Yeah, where it's where if it doesn't do well, it's on your it's on your back, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
And also like people are spending their money on your music as well. Like it's a whole nother level of just it was just a bit nerve wracking going into it at first. But I mean, first 2 ones or 3 I've done have been really well received, and sort of made that transition a little bit easier, because it sort of gave me that confidence boost I needed to be like, okay, I can do this now.
Yeah. So I see that you've had so what kind of artists have you been supported by? For example, like, have you had any artists like message you personally? Have you had any like artists share your music that you were like, whoa, that's crazy?
I think the 2 from this year are Noisia and getting played on Noisia radio, and
That's mad. Doesn't
Molly
get much
Collins.
bigger than that.
Well, and then about 2-3 weeks later, it was Molly Collins playing it on Kiss FM, and
Oh wow.
for me, it was on a D&B show, and for me, like, I've listened to Kiss for like the past 2-3 years or so, and I always wondered like, oh, I'd be mad if I got my music on there, and then now one of my tracks has been played on there, and it was a bit of like a surreal moment. It was just about, well, obviously I must be doing something right for my
Yeah,
tracks.
right. That's sick, man. So did you go to like college to learn about these kind of things, or is it purely self-taught? Or
I had lessons with Turno when I first started out, and ways like I've never been good with education. I can never like sit down in a classroom and learn. It just bores me. But doing those lessons with you know, Turno, being able to actually go down to his studio and sit in with him, that was like really helpful. And then the same ways, just doing it over Zoom, and it was just like little things that I needed to know, and sort of gave me like the little boost at the time that I needed. And yeah, that's sort of how I learned. And then in between, it's all been sort of self-taught from YouTube videos and you know, hours on
just fiddling around.
Yeah.
So you work better in that one-to-one kind of environment.
Yeah.
Yeah, decent, man, decent. Do you try and do a bit of music every day, or is there like a process that you go through?
I try not to force it sometimes. Like sometimes I sit down and I'll just see what I can do. But other days, if I'm really not feeling it, you know, I'm not going to force it, because then I'll just get frustrated, and it means then I won't want to do it for another few days on top of that. Because I think, oh, if I go back now, I'm just going to sit down and get frustrated again. So I might try, like I normally do, like now I'm sat down, I'll probably just like try and get like a nice little drum loop going, just something so when I come back in a few days, it's just like, oh, well, I've got my drums down now, I can just fiddle with a bit of a sound design, or you know.
So is that how you always start your tracks? Start with the drums and then build on that?
Yeah, so I always just get my drums down, get that done, sort of just get like a basic phrasing sorted, and then maybe do sound design, or might just start building like a really sort of basic intro, and like a build, and then maybe go into the sound design so that I can get like a whole feel of how the track's going to flow. But it really depends what I'm feeling. Like some days I'll just drag a drum loop in and I'll just do sound design for like a few hours, or I'll just spend hours working on drums, or you know, it varies really.
Yeah. Well, no, that's really cool, man. It's always interesting to hear about how other producers like start projects, finish projects, how they work through their projects. Is there a particular process that you go through at the other end? What, you know, like when you're ready to, when you feel like you've finished the track, and then you move on to the mix down, master, and bits like that. Is there a certain process that you go through?
Not really. Just sort of it gets to sort of the final stage and it's just like tweaking little bits then. So I'm really like finicky with making sure everything sounds right and like flows well together. So sort of, yeah, obviously at the end then do my mix down, make sure everything sounds nice, get all like the little bits sorted out, and then send it off for a master then.
So, okay, so do you always get the same person to master?
Yeah, so I got a mate that does it for me. So
Okay,
I just send it to him.
decent, man, decent. Are we allowed to know who that is? Or?
It's just one of my old schoolmates, to be honest. Yeah,
Oh,
it's
okay.
like no one sort of I say special, that sounds rude on him. It's not like a
we know what you mean. So yeah, I think, to be honest, man, I think we've pretty much covered everything that I wanted to cover.
Yeah.
So maybe now we just do a few plugs, if you want to plug your socials and bits like that. Is that and maybe plug some releases that are coming up that you're allowed to?
So yeah, just on my Instagram, Stuss_DNB. Obviously my SoundCloud as well is just StussDNB. Over on Facebook as well, I think that's StussDNB as well. So if you just type that into anything, pretty much you're gonna find me. For my upcoming releases, obviously got the Bagged and Tagged EP coming soon. The Invicta one as well. Very excited for those two, and then the Hydrate single in between that. So
awesome,
got three nice little releases to finish up for the start of the year. Got
a busy few months then.
Yeah.
Ideal, man. Well, it's been absolutely lovely to chat to you, Stuss. I hope you have a lovely day. Is there anything else that you want to say before we wrap up?
I think that's about it. Yeah.
That's about it, man.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
That's absolutely fine, man. It's been an absolute pleasure indeed. So this has been episode 2 of BassPush Interviews in conjunction with the Wub. I've been BassPush. Oh, he's been Stuss. Hope you all have a lovely day. Bye.